All right. Welcome to the Berlin Select Board meeting. Today is Monday, March 28th, 2022. We continue to meet virtually, only in light of our COVID Pantene. That's a shampoo pandemic. There you go. Let's see. Call to order. I got 7 o'clock on the little clock, and let's see, announcements. Our usual meetings of the Berlin Select Board are generally recorded for transmission on both the Berlin Cable Television Access Channel and YouTube. Your voice, image, and our telephone number may be recorded. Chris, I know on the minutes you had some questions on it. Did I see that go whizzing by, or am I making that up?
I did, but I wasn't sure whether anybody could see the changes I made. So I wrote them down for the meeting.
All right. If you want to go over them, that would be great.
Okay. Let's see. The first
changes
one. Huh?
I thought the changes were made in the folder because that section was highlighted in the folder.
Well, the first line in the second paragraph, it just didn't read right, and I think the word "and" could be deleted. I'm glad everybody else has another monitor.
Oh, no worries.
You and June and I are the only ones.
I mean, I could go either way.
I mean, does it make sense when you read it? Or is it just me? The first sentence, the first line in the second paragraph.
Yeah.
Not counting the attendees.
So the meeting opened at 7. What was your older version?
No. See, I don't have it in front of me, but
I mean,
Board
honestly, if
discussed
it's
whether
only,
or not to prioritize
yeah.
and some ARPA funds requests and ask. So that first "and" you're saying is odd. The
Yeah.
board discussed whether or not to prioritize some ARPA fund requests and ask requesters to move forward, gathering data, details, quotes, narrative, project scopes, costs, timelines, budget, project, etc. You're right. I think that first "and" could go away.
Okay.
all right.
And then there was number 2. I didn't know whether the last name Thompson was
No,
spelled
it's actually,
correctly.
it's Thomas. So I just corrected it. So
Okay.
what's in here now is corrected as Thomas.
Mary, could you see my changes when I sent them to you?
I didn't know what your changes were, so I've taken your version and put it in the folder. But if
Well, I don't think I did it right. I think I didn't do it correctly or something. And so I don't know that any changes happened in that email. But anyway, those are the 2 things that I thought needed corrected.
All right. I mean, I'm fine. It doesn't really change the content of it. So
No.
is there a motion?
No, I'm fine with the minutes with those changes.
Okay.
I'll second that.
All right. So Mary, thank you for making the changes. Stone eye.
Hawkins, aye.
Keith, aye.
All right. So Miss June or Miss Margaret, are there any correspondences? Correspondi? Is that plural? Correspondi?
And I've got 3 that I need to mention. If I miss anything, do you want to take it? Okay, we'll tag team. Okay, so the first one I have is actually in the board's agenda folder. It's the letter to Judith Kerr and Sylvia Marble, and thanking them for their donation in the current year of $3,000 to continue the Mabel Felton Marble Memorial Scholarship. That's one item, and that's going to be a letter to be signed by the board. The next is a press release, an advertisement opening the Memorial Scholarship applications, and the third is the application. Mary has put select board approved on all 3 of these things, so I guess I would just ask the select board that if you're okay with them, to just vote to approve them. Approve and sign.
I think it is great that they continue to do this and have no problem making the motion to approve the documents as they've been presented.
I'll second that.
Stone Eye.
Hawkins, aye.
Keith, aye.
And as I mentioned before the folks hopped on, Chris and I have already signed the letter. We took a preemptive assumption that we'd be good with them. So Scott will pop down and get those 2 letters signed and be off and running.
All right, so the second item I have is correspondence on a continued matter from Mr.
Choate.
Robert Choate, regarding trucks idling in the driveway of Berlin Auto Parts. Chief Shartner did go down there to meet with him and indicated that there's really nothing he could enforce. Mary sent out the Class 3 license today, and I shared it with Chief Shartner and inquired as to whether or not any of those items would help him with enforcement. So I don't know if he has responded via email yet, but I'm hoping that the police department can help us out here if there is any violation to be able to enforce the provisions of the license, at least report back to the board. And the last thing I have is that last week there was a site
And
visit.
Margaret, just
Yes.
on that one, there is not a state law about idling on private property, right? The state idle laws are on sort of public roads and other things.
That is correct. And
and
Berlin's
that-
own policy only mentions public ways,
Right.
signage on public ways.
And then although, as I understand it, we have a lot of terms and conditions on that license and an annual meeting that goes in and checks things out and the business tends to check out. Someday someone will get me up to speed how we ended up with a sort of commercial property in the middle of a residential district, but that's not for today. Our ability to make changes to those terms and conditions are limited. I mean, like, let's say we decided we wanted to, I don't want to pick on this big. Let's say we suddenly wanted to have red rose bushes across the front of the property to hide things or something. At what point in the process are we able to decide that some of these terms aren't needed anymore and maybe some new ones are better for the community?
Yeah, typically that would happen during the relicensing process, which of course happens at the beginning of a calendar year.
Right.
I would think, and I'd have to look into this, but I would think if the board wanted to make any changes to the stipulations midway, then a hearing would have to be called. You'd have to bring in the licensee and you'd have to go over everything with the licensee. But if the board chooses to do that, we'd look into it a little more.
I'm not proposing, at this time, I just want to understand sort of if we want to make changes, what the process might be or look like, and you've answered that. Thank you.
Yeah, okay. All right, so Mr. Choate did ask for this to be on a board agenda, so I did want to bring it up. And the last thing I have is that last week there was a site visit at Linden Street, the parking area for the entrance. It's on the town parcel with the entrance to the Conservation Commission Trail. This does go through an abutter's property. So the discussion that happened last week, everybody received an email on it. I think I forwarded it to the board. It doesn't discuss costs. What I would suggest in order to determine any costs or manpower actually that are needed for that particular project, to invite the Conservation Commission to a select board meeting along with Fred, the highway superintendent. So updates could be provided to the board. You could be filled in on what the potential costs would be. So those are the three.
When's Fred coming? Ish? I don't remember. Sorry for the rotation.
I believe he was, they teamed up last week. I think that he would be on the beginning of April, first meeting in April.
Okay.
Mary, correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know if you've already plugged it in.
Usually it goes police, fire, highway.
So
It
the
usually goes
18th?
police, fire, highway.
All right.
So 3 weeks. Oh, that would actually be coffee talk, right?
Oh, yeah. Well, maybe we can double up Chief Clark and Fred again. I think we did that before and put them on the 11th. All right. So Margaret, I don't have the email, but you said it did not break down costs?
No, I forwarded it to you and it does not break down costs. It was a site visit to determine labor, materials needed. I think I forwarded it on Friday.
All
I
right,
don't
I'll
think I
look for it.
remember getting anything either.
You didn't? Okay.
Yeah, because definitely I'd like to take a look at that, because I know that when you first did this, that you had explained that it was a shared cost. So I'm very curious to see how much the town is going to put into it in terms of labor and material versus what Concom is going to put into it.
I think Carolyn McDonald has her hand up in the audience if you'd like to hear.
Sure, bring it up to the big table.
Just keep in mind, we do have an appointment at
Yep,
7.
that's
Okay.
7:10. So Carolyn, you got to go quick. You got about a minute.
Oh, I thought I.
Hi, guys.
Hey, Carolyn.
I just got back from the gym, so you don't get video.
Okay.
And I'm on my daughter's phone, so sorry if this is a little awkward. I just want to let you know that we do not have costs yet because we're just coming up with a plan. The plan still needs to be voted on at conservation, so
Mhm.
I haven't done anything as far as figuring out costs yet until the plan is voted on. Because I
Okay.
don't want to run into the same situation we ran in before where somebody says, well, I didn't know that's what we were going to do, and blah, blah. So I just want to,
Carolyn, you're not meeting this week, right? You're meeting the 6th?
correct.
Okay, all right. So if I put you on the agenda for the 11th, do you think that that would give you guys enough time to figure out who's doing what and how much and all that other fun stuff?
Yep. I mean, we can certainly have some sort of tentative
Okay.
numbers for sure. The other thing that I thought kind of was how the division of things was going to be split was that the town would do the labor and we would do the materials.
Last year, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Well, at last year's site visit, we did, the intent was to do a 50-50 split, which had actually been done at the property before, where Denny and Walter kind of shared duties and materials, and each did a portion of it. So the intent last year was to do some sort of a 50-50 split where highway could potentially provide the labor and conservation could provide the materials.
So if you guys are comfortable with that, then.
Well, to be honest, Carolyn, I'm not comfortable until I see it, because I need to know like how much Fred and his team are going to need to be able to do, and timing and all that other fun stuff. So.
Right.
I
So
apologize, I just forwarded it.
Oh,
yeah,
thanks, Margaret.
just to kind of go over what the plan is. And so there's 2 dead trees that highway has to take down anyway, because the dead limbs are hanging over the parking lot. And so whether we do anything with the parking lot or not, those have to be taken care of. And then they're going to do some brush removal, which I assume is under their purview anyway. So really, we're just talking the removing of the fence and the installing of the new fence.
So, and I know that Brittany is graciously waiting for us. So on the fence, Carolyn, I'm going to assume that the current fence is not going to come down until the new fence is purchased and ready to be installed?
There's going to be an interim step in which the large cross poles are going to be taken off of the uprights and laid down along the perimeter of the outline of the agreed upon size of the parking lot, because right now the parking lot really just doesn't function. So to leave it this way until we can figure out what we're going to do about a fence, and everybody seemed to be in agreement that delineating the parking lot with the current pole pieces of wood, telephone poles really is what they are, made the most sense. And then we will go from there.
Carolyn, who's taking them down?
The highway department.
When?
I mean, that is, it's not my job to
right.
figure out their schedule.
Yeah, all right. So yeah, no, as I said, I know that Brittany is waiting. So it sounds like we've got lots to talk about, and definitely we're gonna need to bring in Fred to check his schedule as well. So, I request, well, it can't happen until you go to your board, which is the 6th, and then it's gonna come back to us. So technically, nothing will happen till at least the 11th.
That makes sense. Yep.
Okay, all right, cool. We'll make sure that we get you on the agenda bright and early.
All right.
Thank you, Miss Carolyn, appreciate it.
Thank you. You're welcome, guys. Bye.
June, Margaret, was there anything else that you had for correspondence? Nope. Okay. Can we bring up Miss Brittany to the big table, please?
Hello,
Hey, Brittany,
can everybody
how are you?
hear me?
We can.
Good. I'm leaving my okay, I'm leaving my video off because where I am, the connection is not awesome. And if I attempt video, you're probably not going to hear or see me at all.
No worries. So thank you for coming. Appreciate it.
Of course.
And nice to talk to you. I think last time I saw you was at our town meeting many months ago. But wanted to talk to you about options that you could possibly present, take away, think about, as the mask mandate has lifted and some people are requesting to return to live in-person meetings. We also know that, especially for the selectmen, attendance has been up because people are just like zooming in and seeing what they need to see and then zipping away. So trying to find a way to almost, for lack of a better word, have a hybrid approach of in-person, but keeping Zoom, for live participation and how that would work.
Okay, so actually, I've done this in other towns, so the solution is very simple and can be done pretty much immediately. So what it will require, so you want the Zoom component and you want the audience to still be able to participate, correct?
And Scott and Chris, obviously, chime in, and Miss June and Margaret as well, if I've missed anything.
Okay, so basically what it would require is that you're still going to need someone who's going to be taking host responsibilities for that Zoom meeting. And what we would do, so for example, it would be similar setup to how we've done it in the past where Roger is there with a camera, he's shooting you guys. We have a microphone on the table. And what we do is we take the output from that camera and it's a HDMI cable and it runs over to the laptop that is acting as the host for the Zoom meeting. And we have a little dongle that plugs into that laptop that we plug the cable into. And what it tells the computer is that that camera is now a webcam. So just when you are on Zoom and you start your video and start your audio, there'll be an option under start video that you can use the computer's existing camera or you can use the webcam that we're providing. So you would just select that and then everyone at home would see what the camera sees, what we normally record, as well as picking up the audio from the table.
So do we each have to have a laptop too?
No, you don't.
Okay.
Unless you want to. The only issue there would be though, if you had a laptop, if you wanted to see the Zoom screen of say someone else or whatever, your computer would need to be muted and your microphone would need to be off, or else we'll get feedback from multiple devices in the same room. And if you wanted to, we could send what the laptop is seeing to a monitor. So, like those extra monitors we had at town meeting, you could set that up as like a second monitor for the laptop so that it could be kind of blown up so you could see, the Zoom meeting on a larger screen if you wanted to do that.
And I was going to ask that if there was any way, because it's just nice to see, folks around for the folks at home, if we could use the big giant TVs that are downstairs. Okay.
Well, they're
It's not a
actually,
TV.
well, last I knew, they were still in the room 218 and the hearing room. So they're
Okay.
upstairs. They're ready to go.
All right. So,
Yeah, so
Brittany,
it's relatively simple, but oh, sorry.
no, go ahead, because you're probably going to answer my question.
I was, I would say it's relatively simple, but I definitely would want to do sort of a walkthrough beforehand with all of you, just so that you're comfortable with it, sort of a dress rehearsal, but I can do it really anytime. We could, in theory, we could do it for next meeting.
Chris Scott, how do you feel about going back in? I mean, now that we have this capability where it is hybrid, where we'll actually get to see each other and see folks that want to john on down to the town office, but then leave the opportunity for folks who want to stay home to have us go back and start meeting in person.
Well, we do have till July 15th, I think, to
Correct.
continue with Zoom. I mean, I'm pretty comfortable with Zoom.
Scott?
I am both comfortable with Zoom, but I'm also very comfortable coming into the office or into the building and having our meetings in person. My general philosophy going through this is that I also gladly defer to the most conservative and risk adverse person in the group. And so although I'm comfortable meeting in person, and I think we could do this potentially through the town administrator, if anyone on this, including the town administrator or Mary, who's the note taker, or even people who are going to be on the video camera feel uncomfortable, they could speak up privately, and I think we follow whatever the most conservative, risk adverse person is, because I would like everyone who's in the room to feel comfortable if we're having this meeting in person.
I'm happy to raise my hand for that because I simply cannot be in person at the moment, and
Right.
I wouldn't be able to until the very end of April.
All right, so then why don't we do this end of April? It's really not all that far away. So why don't we plop something on the calendar, technical term being plop, for early May to revisit, and if we can go before July, let's go and do it. I mean, we're all going to be meeting in person anyways for the town meeting, whether it's inside or outside. So why don't we give it a month, see what some of the other committees and commissions are doing, if they're going to meet or continue to Zoom, and, gauge our decision from there.
Well, I will fill you in. Maybe I did already. At the last ZBA meeting I attended, they decided they were going to stick with Zoom.
And conservation is going in person. So,
Okay.
and I don't know
Yep.
about all your other groups. Okay.
I have a
All right.
Question, just a quick question. Is
Oh,
there any
go
way,
ahead, of course.
is there any way where we could still have a possibility of, if we were going to have a meeting in a room with a Zoom laptop? I think the only thing that it sounds like Brittany would make a change on would be just having the added camera. Is that right? Is
I think
that
it's an added microphone.
in the microphone? Because
Because they can use the camera they're using to broadcast over, as I understand it, they can use the camera that they're broadcasting to record for the YouTube channel later on. They could use, plug into the laptop to do for the Zoom meeting. I just, we'd have to figure out speakers, so if someone on the Zoom meeting wanted to say something to us, we'd be able to hear it, but we might be able to hear that through the laptop speakers.
Or if we're going to use the
Through the
giant TV
television, if
that's
you're
in-
using the,
Go ahead.
yeah, if you're using the television, the speakers from the television should be sufficient that you could hear.
All right. So it kind of sounds like we have a plan that, Brittany, thankfully you've been through this, so you can guide the 6 of us as we go through this. So we'll set it for early May. How about after town election? Because I know that we'll all be super duper busy until then, and then we can revisit and pick a date and go. Does that work? Scott, Chris, any last questions? June,
Yeah, that works.
Margaret? Okay.
Fingers crossed. Yeah.
That
I was
works
gonna
works
say,
for
yeah.
me.
All right, Brittany, so don't go too far. We'll have you back in May. Well, we'll see you before then, and then we'll figure
Okay.
this part puzzle out.
Thank you,
Okay,
Brittany.
thank you very
Awesome.
much.
Thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank
You're
you. Whitney.
welcome. Yep, bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Have a great night. All right, so we have TA1 and we have TA2 here tonight. So we have a town administrator report, so I will defer to either of you.
TA2.
June,
Okay.
June, you should have done this. Look, you were too late. Not it. Yeah.
All right. Okay, so let's see. One of the first things that I would like to mention is Eloise had sent out a notice that there are nominations are now available and they can be picked up from the town clerk, just sending a name, address, and the office that people are looking into running for. The nominations actually close on April 12th at 5 p.m. And I did notice that Mary sent out a link so that there are links actually on the Town of Berlin Facebook page and also the Town of Berlin website for other additional information for the nominations. I'm just going to throw in a little bit of accounting here just because I can, is just to let you know that we've actually are in the process of, and I believe we just finished up the audit for fiscal year 21. We should be receiving those financial statements within the next week. And also today, Schedule A was approved also by the state. So all of the information is in for that. Also, I did notice that there was a posting that the fire EMS are going to be doing some training at the highway barn on West Street on Saturday, April 2nd, between the hours of 9 and 3, just in case anybody should see anything that's a little out of the ordinary, just so that they know there's training going on. And I also wanted to mention that coffee talks, I believe, are still on the table, and we're planning on doing those on April 21st, I believe, starting at 6:30.
Correct.
I'm going to assume that we're still doing that by Zoom based on what we just talked about. And I didn't know if we were going to post it actually as a coffee talk on the My Town Government. I didn't know if we wanted some sort of an agenda or something like that.
No, we generally do. We try to put, start to think about who all can come, the usual suspects, Eric, maybe, Chief Clark, Fred, somebody from school committee.
Well, this is the one where we talk about the warrant.
Right, so this is mostly about the
Right,
warrant.
We have some other things that we can fit in as well that won't take all that long. So while we have a captive audience, then we'll do that and then we'll whiz right into the town warrant and go through. So hopefully people will be able to come forth, ask questions, and we can go from there.
I think one of the reasons to post it as a meeting is it allows the three of us to say something on the agenda, because if it's posted to talk about the warrant, if someone asks us questions about the warrant, we can discuss it without violating open
Right.
meeting laws, so.
Yep. So that means that there'll be no select board meeting on Monday, the 18th. And in lieu of that, it will be on the 21st.
Right, and the 18th is a holiday anyway.
Yep.
And the only other thing I was going to share would be updates about the playground. Margaret, I don't know if you want to just do a quick update where we stand on that, because it's changed since Friday, so.
Yeah, so Julie confirmed that and Fred also confirmed that his issues with the safety of the playground have been resolved with the addition of the bark mulch. And Fred was satisfied with the addition of the bark mulch prior to this past weekend, except for 2 areas, which Julie confirmed they were taken care of over the weekend. So my understanding is that the playground is up to par, and I don't know if Fred actually was able to reopen it today, remove the fencing
It was
around it
open,
today.
Margaret. I drove by over the weekend.
Excellent. Okay.
Kids in there. So
Okay,
Fred
good.
and company took the fence down. So thank you. to
Okay.
Highway.
So that was a fairly straightforward resolution. That said, when we look on the asset inventory, that playground was built in 2003, 20 years would be next fiscal year. So I sent out a capital request form to everyone again, which I do during the capital request process every year, and ask them regardless of the type of funding they're seeking for various projects, to please fill out the capital request form, and we can get it into the capital planning committee. Capital planning committee in the bylaw even has provisions to review emergency requests. So it's not like this needs to wait a full year. If there's an emergency request, capital planning committee could get on it according to their bylaw. So was that it, June, on the, okay.
That was it,
Okay.
because I didn't have all the
Okay.
details, so I just wanted you to share.
Okay, and now I'll add a couple of things here. First of all, when we get to the town meeting warrant review, there are a couple of things that I'm going to want to know. We got an email today from Paul McKelk as a representative of the Earthworks Advisory Committee regarding that article. I don't know if the board got it. I saw it, right? Okay, good. So we'll talk about that. Last week I mentioned that Beth Greenblatt is continuing to work on under the Meta grant on the whole idea of solar power purchase agreements for various town properties. And I just wanted to give an update on that. Right now, the school has submitted to her National Grid invoices. The town has submitted recent National Grid invoices to her. And Steve, the facilities director at the school, is assessing the school roof and various sections of it and their age to try to better determine whether or not solar assets are feasible at the school. So that's just an update on that. I issued the RFQ today, since Brittany was here tonight. I issued the RFQ today on the AV meeting room upgrades, and that's procured under a state contract, which makes the procurement process a little easier for us, but we still have to do the request for quotes, and we do have to comply with the state contract terms. I asked Mary to put it on our website so Brittany could point vendors to the information on the website. I don't know if that's been done yet, but that'll be up on the website for eligible vendors to look at. And the last thing I have is a notice to the board of my intention to not renew my contract for a successor term beginning July 1, 2022. This has been very painful for me to come to this decision. You know that because I've spoken with each one of you, and but due to the health issue that I've experienced, and I'm going to have to deal with for the rest of my life, I need to prioritize my health and well-being. And I'm sorry, I'm kind of ad-libbing right now, but I'll read the next two paragraphs. I truly hope that over the past 3 years, despite a long COVID pandemic, the select board, town employees, boards, committees, and the community at large have seen the value in adopting the Select Board and Town Administrator Act. I will be forever grateful to have served as Berlin's very first town administrator, responsible for acting with integrity and professionalism as the board's agent in overseeing day-to-day town operations. Following the expiration of my contract, I will gladly continue to be available as a resource for the board, June Poland, who has done an amazing job as my designee during my absence, and the professional you select as your new town administrator. Meanwhile, I'll continue working on and closing out as many high priority projects as possible, and will assist you as needed with the search for your next town administrator. And I just want to express my sincere gratitude for giving me the opportunity to be your first administrator. And it's been an absolute honor and privilege. And I'll keep plugging away until the very last minute of my contract. So thank you for the opportunity. And I'm so sorry. It's a tough decision.
Well, we know you put a lot into this decision, Margaret, and I want to thank you so much for giving us the opportunity to work together and being able to see, and I think you showed the community too, what it's like to have a town administrator, and it's been very much an asset.
Yeah, it's been a great ad. I don't think I could be a select board if there wasn't a town administrator role.
Mm-hmm.
And glad to be able to serve and happy to have the assistance You'll be missed, but I totally understand the reasons why. I can't fault those by any stretch of the imagination. You've done some great stuff for this town and got us through COVID. Also,
yeah.
knock on wood, knock on wood.
Well, and you know me, we'll leave it there.
You
So
you
we'll
can
ask
talk,
you-
you can talk later, Peg.
Oh, I know, but the
I
one who's
know.
weepy, goes last. Margaret, I would ask you for, maybe next week at the meeting or the weekend or the week after, if there's any way that you can put some thoughts together on realignment, what we can do maybe more efficiently, maybe more effectively, try to take a look at your job and I don't know, break it out into buckets to see how the four of us can continue to assist you and whoever else will be stepping into your shoes. You know, I know that we're going to be working quite closely over the next few months to make sure that your transition out is as smooth as possible. But yeah, it's, you know, you bring a great perspective to the town as our first administrator. I'm sure you look around and could say, ooh, that needs a little work, or, ooh, they got that one. So any comments and feedback that you have would be great. But yeah, if you could, you know, come back to us. I don't know how long it would take you to put, you know, thoughts together, reorganization together, you know, to help us get through this.
Okay, I will do that. And as I said, I'm going to assist you in any way possible. I'm not going to, I will not leave you high and dry.
And
We know where you
will-
live.
We want to assist you as much as we can too.
I know.
Yeah.
And I can watch you on Zoom all the time later.
Oh, God. Margaret, I've got a list of books
It'll
that I
be
can
me in
give
the
you.
audience raising my hand.
I'm sure you can do something else on a Monday night, but
Yeah.
yeah, no. We'll talk because I don't want to blubber. All right. But thank you.
That's all we've got, I think, for TA1 and TA2 reports.
Oh, thank freaking God. All right. Okay. So the old business, moving down, Margaret, you pretty much covered it for the BMS on the playground and stuff. But Scott, I know that you had asked to put this on the agenda. Is there anything specific that you wanted to talk about, or pretty much was it covered?
No, I mean, I'm happy that it's now open. It's still, as Margaret pointed out, a 20-year-old playground. I think the capital request is fine. I had worries that the direction we had been going, you know, doing a 60% others would force it to be condemned, even with wood chips. And I still don't think it's a great playground as it represents as well as a town. So, but I think a process is in place. I'll see how we go with some of the ARPA funding stuff, because I think generally we might find ourselves in a catch-22 that, you know, people don't want to spend the energy as oh, I forget what the example was here, but spend the energy sort of getting all the RFPs and quotes and all that passed to find they don't have the money, and we don't want to give the money until we know some more about it and where that sort of happy medium is, so that we don't pre-approve the money, but we find a way to say this is worthy of at least going further down the path and to find that balance, because I hate wasting staff time. But for the playground, I think we're at least okay for now.
All right. So speaking of rec, a couple meetings ago, Julie had brought to us some fee schedules that they wanted to enact, and I know that their season, I want to say, starts in a couple weeks, maybe the 9th. So I haven't seen any updated changes to that fee schedule. Did not know if there were any additional questions, and either Margaret or June, I think that one of you said that we should sign off on this, so I'll leave it open for discussion if there is any.
Unfortunately, I've missed a part of this. I would, if it's at all possible, I'd like to do a little due diligence and look at surrounding towns and what they charge for field usage, because of course, you know, the fees that are coming in from the field usage are supposed to be supporting the revolving fund, which in turn would pay for the, you know, for the turf, green turf, you know, fertilizing and stuff that's needed for the athletic fields. In which case this could operate as a true revolving fund. So if it's possible to wait 1 week, I'd like to just do a little due diligence and look at what other towns are charging.
Yep, I think Julie did some of that, so I think your due
Oh, did she?
diligence won't take long, but I agree that I think you should feel comfortable that it has been done as well. And I don't think there was a crisis that waiting another week should have caused any problems there.
No, and I think that Julie just had some questions of whether finance was going to shift some of the costs that rec currently supports that they probably shouldn't support to highway or somewhere. So I don't know. I've talked to Julie about other things. She's never mentioned anything coming back. So I would probably say, Margaret, the file that you have that lists out her fees for town people using the field and non-town people using the field is probably the most up to date.
Okay. All right. I'll
Agreed.
just do a little bit of checking with other towns and, you know, just so we're all comfortable doing that.
All right. Any other questions on that, Scott or Chris?
No,
I agree with you.
Okay, now, gonna have some fun. We are up at the review the town meeting articles and finance recommendations to potentially approve and sign off of. So TA 1 and 2, I hand the floor to you.
I wasn't sure, Margaret, how you wanted to do this. I know that council does have the articles and they did request to have at least a full week to take a look at and review. So I didn't know if you all wanted to run through them or the questioned ones tonight, or do you want to wait until after town council finishes the review? There are a couple that were added or requested to be added.
I'd like to at least touch on those. There's actually a removal here. So on Article 6, the transfer, it was called transfer open space mitigation payments to the open space fund. The open space payment for this particular year, for FY22 only, has already been received and deposited to the open space fund. You'll recall that the financial management review that DLS did suggested that be general fund, treated as general fund revenue, and therefore in future years require a transfer by town meeting into the open space fund. But because the fee was already received this year and moved into the open space fund, June and I would recommend that article be dropped. It's really not necessary this year. That money is already available in the open space fund for FY22. For the next, I think it's 5 years, right? Is it FY28? That's the fund. Okay, so for FY23 to FY28, there will have to be an article that moves that money from the general fund to the open space fund.
And one of the main reasons is that conservation actually is already accounting for those funds in their open space to help offset the costs associated with the land purchase.
Yeah, so the board reviewed this, finance committee reviewed this. Finance committee did not take a position because we made the same recommendation to them. So we would recommend removing Article 6, not necessary this year. Of course, I'd renumber all the following articles. The next one is an addition, and that's funding the general stabilization fund. I don't have my use of the cash sheet, but in the finance committee's use of free cash guidelines, it does, one of the buckets is to fund general stabilization and add to the town's, you know, rainy day fund, emergency fund, whatever it is you want to call it. This year with our certified free cash, this would add $197,614, which is 10% of the available certified free cash this year to the general stabilization fund, bringing the general stabilization fund to just over $1.4 million. So that's something that the board has not already voted to include. When we brought it to finance committee, they recommended doing this in accordance with the free cash guidelines. That currently shows as Article 29 on your draft warrant.
That's different than line 7 on Article 20 that's adding that money to the stabilization fund?
No, that's the capital stabilization fund. That's strictly for capital projects. The general stabilization could cover any number of things. It could
Yep.
cover debt service. It could cover, yeah, true emergencies, natural disasters, you name it. But okay, any questions on that one? The next one and the last one I have to comment on is the earthwork bylaw combined. And I see Paul McKelk's actually in the audience. We got an email from Paul today recommending or requesting that the board hold off on combining the bylaws and wait for a joint board and committee meeting that would involve the Select Board, Conservation Commission, Planning Board, and Earthworks Advisory Committee to jointly discuss and update the bylaw. Given that feedback from the Earthwork Advisory Committee, I present to the Select Board a recommendation that the bylaw be held off on for now or removed from this particular warrant for further review, and that it be brought back on the next town meeting warrant as a fully reviewed earthwork bylaw.
Would it be a good idea to possibly have Amy Questle meet with all the parties or be
Yes.
at that meeting, because she's so versed in that, so that she could explain maybe why we want to do something or don't want to do something, so we could all understand each other?
That's an excellent idea.
Yeah, because this merging of these two bylaws predates me on the select board even. And so it seems weird that after 2 years, we want to start at the scratch again. But I also, if there's people who have big questions or concerns, I don't know of another option. So
Mhm.
I'm fine with pulling it as a warrant article and scheduling something to discuss with those parties.
Peg, Paul has his hand up.
Oh, come up to the table there, Mr. McKell. Paul, if you're talking, you're on mute. You don't have to, oh, there he goes again. Paul, you don't have to put your video on if you want to take yourself off mute. You had yourself off and now you're back on. Okay,
All right,
There we go.
here I am.
there you are.
The merging of these bylaws, the whole Likekind Soil is really, well, it's deja vu Maplewood. And if we don't approach this carefully and intelligently, we're leaving the door open for Likekind Soil, which is contaminated soil, to come into this town. And our committee really sees no benefit to that, because the recipients get paid for that, which is fine. That's business. But why do we want to allow any contaminated soil coming into town? Clean fill is available, sometimes free, sometimes for purchase. And it should just end there. The whole Likekind Soil thing can get very confusing, and well, it is confusing, but people in the trades that understand it, and the town has been burnt. So we feel the best approach is just to eliminate the option of Likekind Soil. And any project that needs fill just needs to provide clean fill. As soon as you start talking certified soil engineers and so forth, you are going down the road of contaminated soil. It's really pretty simple. And we do not think it's in the best interest of our small community.
How do we know whether the soil is clean, Paul? That when someone's bringing in fill?
Well, if you're buying soil, there's a verification process. I mean, Rutland has been through this. We've been through this with Likekind Soil, and we're getting material that comes from the bottom of Boston Harbor and other nefarious places. And do we really want that? Why?
No.
Why? And by combining these bylaws, you're just allowing that to happen. And what that opens the door for is more attorney's fees. Nothing against Amy Creswell or anybody else, but it's a lot simpler if we just deny Likekind Soil and require just clean fill.
Well, then, Paul, I would ask, and again, since we're going to maybe vote to take it off the warrant, that you and Earthworks, other board people, get together and take what Amy has provided you and look through it and start the process of strike through, remove, reword, so that we have a working copy that we can all look at and agree and ask questions from, instead of, oh, well, this one said, yeah, but this one said, but I combined it and now it says. So that would be my ask for Earthworks to take it. and do
That's
something.
all well and good, and we have no problem with that. You're just asking legal neophytes to fine tune an attorney's document. And we will,
No, I actually-
no, let me finish. We will do our best. And there's verbiage in there that may not specifically say Likekind Soil, but it opens the door to it. And we're pretty clear on what that verbiage is, and we would have no problem crossing that out, and we'd be happy to do so.
Okay.
I would have no problem going the direction Paul is talking about going, is wiping out the entire Likekind Soil section of the town bylaws, and somewhere under the Earthworks section saying the town does not allow the importation of Likekind soil. I mean, one of the things I was looking to try to do at one point is, can we cap the amount of that comes in totally as a town? Like we do, potentially building permits or other stuff that limit it to a certain amount, trying to both limit trucks and this coming in. But I am much happier with what Paul suggested than even what I was thinking. So, and I don't think we need a ton of lawyer fees to add one line that just says we don't allow it.
So Likekind Soil is under the mass contingency plan, so under state regulations. I agree. I think it would simplify things greatly if Likekind Soil was removed altogether and the town didn't allow it. We do need to make sure that we can prohibit the importation of Likekind soil, because again, state regulations govern that as well.
Which is why I wouldn't do that simple change now and still keep it on the warrant article. I think the direction Paul is talking about going is the right direction. I think taking some time is fine to do it, to make sure we're doing it right. And so we don't end up, that we've worded the prohibition wrong, or we've done it in a way that allows loopholes. And maybe if we agree that's the direction to go, that somehow we direct, our attorneys to write the language that makes it happen. But again, it's not ready for town, so that we don't need to debate the whole thing now. We probably should talk to planning and a few other things, but that the motion to remove it from town meeting, I'm totally fine with.
Yeah, simply put, Likekind Soil, to bring in Likekind Soil, it has to match something that already exists in the community. I don't think we have a lot of contaminated sites in this town, which would allow Likekind Soil. So I think I would agree with what Scott just said. Let's keep it simple for right now, and just we'll delve into this.
All right. Well, let's pretend that there'll be a special town meeting in September, because I want to put a stake in the ground. I don't want this to hang around. So if it is September, October, whether we have one or not, if we could back up a few months, again, wait for town meetings and everything to get over, start to at least meet and talk about this in June. I know summer's hard, a lot of groups disappear. We go on every other week, but I don't want to hurry up and get this done and it's done in error, nor do I want to do it too early, so.
Couldn't agree more.
Okay, all
Thanks,
right.
Paul.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Mr. McKell, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Paul.
All right, what else you got there, Miss Margaret? Or Miss June?
Those were the only three things I had. I had a conversation today with town council on the OPEB article and on personnel bylaws. So she's sending me some stuff. There aren't going to be significant changes requested, but she did point out that the summary under the OPEB bylaw should be brushed up a little bit to clarify that we're not providing OPEB. OPEB is just a funding mechanism that's being established. It's not providing any retiree health insurance benefits. That would have to come at a later point. So I sent that off to Richard today. I think I might have, if I didn't copy the board,
you
I
did.
will.
You
Okay,
did.
good.
You did.
I
Okay,
like the
good. Yeah.
language. Even as someone who's very skeptical of the whole process, I thought the language was very clear.
Okay. All right. So those are
Margaret
the
or
only-
June, was there anything from finance regarding the $100,000 free cash request by Concom?
Yes. There were a couple of points of view expressed by the finance committee. The finance committee voted 0-5 against recommending that particular article with the combined funding from free cash and open space. There were a couple of different trains of thought, I think. The first was rather than ask the town for $100,000 of free cash, sell one of the parcels, sell a parcel to put affordable housing there. Not a parcel, but a piece of that, you know, one of those parcels. The other thought was to assure repayment, not necessarily repayment of free cash. It was discussed that, and I know Scott Schultz is here. I think he's the one that mentioned this. Over the next 2 years, have a commitment that the $50,000 coming in from open space mitigation funds revert to free cash, to pay back free cash for this. But ultimately, the finance committee decided to recommend against the article. So, you know, a couple of things were pointed out during the meeting. Well, first of all, the town has multiple municipal parcels where affordable housing or community housing could be put, and the potential for municipal parcels, including the so-called River Run parcel, which could potentially accommodate some affordable housing. The other point, and it's a really important point, is the town can't sell any parcel can't sell any piece of a parcel for land that's not owned by the town. No matter what, we need to acquire it first before we can do anything with it. It's you know, so we could maybe change the language. You know, there could be things that are done, but if the town doesn't own the parcel, the town can't sell a piece of that parcel for affordable housing. So, June, I don't know if you have anything else to add to that, but I think, you know, there are a lot of things that really need to be kind of discussed here. Yeah, and you know, from our when the board's last meeting last week, my hope was that we could do something in a summary under one of the articles or add language that assured that if there was a land grant received by the town, that would pay back free cash and pay back CPA. So again, there are a lot of things in motion here. That was a long answer to your short question.
No, it wasn't, because I know that I had asked a bunch of questions last. It's cold. That's my excuse. And I have no tea. That I asked a bunch of questions last week that Sudbury Valley Trust said that they were going to cover the legal fees. Did I read that correctly? But still, I don't see any mention of who's paying interest, the interest money. I don't see any mention of them doing anything with either the parking areas on Linden, not way up Linden, just right around the corner. Yesterday, when I went by, there were 10 to 12 cars squeezed into that little spot that were starting to eke onto the road. Parking at Lyman, they're starting to park sideways. I don't know if it's a safety issue or not. I'm assuming that there's a crap ton of trails that are up there that need to be maybe cleaned, maybe put signs up. There's no mention of that money either. I'm just concerned of, hey, here's 100,000, we're gonna go buy the land. And oh, by the way, now I need 20 for this, I need 30 for this, I need 15 for this, and it's not a complete bill of sale.
Yeah, I am worried this is turning into another South Common, South Street issue where we're gonna, find little tiny issues, although Peg, those are real issues, but we're gonna find things that delay this for not being on town meeting and thus make us lose that land to someone else. And that becomes 300 units of housing and we lose all that conservation land. And so I think the articles are weirdly worded because I don't think any loan is any part of any of this. I think that it is grant money and that it's money that we've given to allow the purchase and a contract that allows us to purchase so that they can get grant money to reimburse the town and potentially sell a plot. But as you point, Mark, we can't ask the owners to sell a plot to lower the price. We have to buy this thing first. And so how do we word these warrant articles so the town ends up owning those properties?
So I saw a couple of emails go back and forth today, and I believe the Conservation Commission Chair, Carolyn, has asked to attend Finance Committee's meeting on Wednesday night to further discuss this with them. So I don't know that, I don't know if there's an appointment scheduled already or not, but
I'm worried because in my universe, I would like the warrants to be like mailed next week. I mean, the meeting is 5 weeks away. If we want people to get the warrants 30 days ahead of time, so they have time to listen to them, digest them, have some conversations about them. If we don't do it tonight, or if we're waiting for a couple more meetings to happen, when is this going to be something that we're ready to put in the mail to make sure that that we can at town meeting purchase this land?
So town council said that they need one additional week to review. They have the entire warrant in their hands. They're reviewing it. This particular matter hopefully will be going to the Finance Committee on Wednesday night. If the Finance Committee, reconsiders their recommendation, that's fine. If they don't, that's fine. The recommendation will appear on the warrant, whatever it may be. So the key things here are the few articles that I mentioned tonight. I would want to ask the board to vote to remove that Article 9, the open space mitigation funding, remove the combined earthwork bylaw, and include funding for general stabilization.
There a motion on the floor for that, for those three?
I'm fine with all those three. I can make that motion.
And I will second that motion.
Okay. Margaret, again, thank you for all your help with that in June as well. Stone eye.
Hawkins, aye.
Keith, aye.
Okay.
And then can I get, again, because it's come up and I want to make sure we are crystal clear, Article 28, which is allowing us to buy the land for $1.25 million. Although it does say bonds and loans in the piece, there is no debt, there is no interest, there is no bonds or loans as part of it. This is just a standard boilerplate to allow us to actually buy the property. All the others are setting aside the money to buy the property. This is the motion to actually buy the property, and there is no debt or loans or loan servicing as part of this.
And this is the article. The motion will not be so ambiguous. The motion is going to be specific to the actual funding sources. Yeah.
Right.
I thought there was some interest that we were going to pay. June's shaking her head, yeah.
Yeah, it's not interest as Scott is speaking of. We're not actually borrowing the money per se. But I know Sudbury Valley is the one who would front the funds. And I know in the past when they've done that, there is a small amount of interest that will be due. I did not print out, I thought I did the email back and forth between Carolyn and I don't remember who else it went back, but she actually itemized the dollar amounts and there was a small discussion as far as money being available still left over in open space to take care of the attorney's fees and something else.
So interest would be applicable, interest to paid to SVT would be applicable if SVT fronted the money. In this
Okay.
case, the town is appropriating them, the town would be appropriating the money, so interest shouldn't have to be payable to SVT, I don't think, right?
If we could get, and I know it's been asked for at a couple meetings, a clear breakdown in one of the summaries of overall, what we got, what we anticipate, what we're putting in, what's left. Here's all these extraneous fees. That's where this money is coming from. Therefore, we're asking you for a total. Make it as clean as possible. Simple math. You know me, plus or minus 10, I'm good.
Right, I think that's for Article 27.
Yeah.
Because 28 is just authorized to buy us, but we're
Yeah.
right, with Article 27 is asking for 360,000 more. We did already approve a bunch of money already.
Right.
There would have been 100,000 earlier on in the meeting in theory. It'd be kind of neat if there's a way to put the article for the 100,000 next to the article for the 360,000, just because the conversations would be about the same, and I'd hate to sort of have to rehash it because some people forgot because it's an hour and a half later, what we'd
Mhm.
already talked about for that other 100,000. I
Hmm.
don't know the best way to do that.
Is any of that, Scott, in the summary?
You're talking about the CPA funding, Scott, first? The CPA
Well, whichever one's first. I think that's, so Article 27 does talk about, the purchase price is 1.25 million. We have 490 from last year. The Sudbury is doing $50,000 from their members. We're asking for another 350 at this town meeting. And so it does allow, that is some of those pieces, yes. And I thought there's still that other motion of $100,000 from free cash.
Mhm.
That's not mentioned in this summary and would have been voted on earlier on. And I just think it would be neat if, as we talk about this purchase, we just do all the motions related to it together.
Yeah, so it's in here. It's on my screen. Margaret, I think this is the one from you that you sent last week, right here. So start here with the math. It's this, subtract this, minus this, minus CPA money, which is this, leaving a balance of this to pay for. Because if you're looking in here, it's not
Yep.
clear.
Okay. I think I put that together in an email. I think I pieced it all together. So I'll suggest that.
Yeah, and it's likely as a good handout by the door too, if Conservation and
Yep.
Sudbury Valley so sees fit.
Yeah, Margaret, this has to be your most updated one because your vote is right there, the O to 5.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
It is only
All right.
Article 24 that the other 100,000 is. Oh, no, sorry, that's the wrong 100,000. See. I'm
Yeah.
doing it.
Oh, it's
I
up
thought
one
there was
more,
a-
Margaret. Peg, is that you that's scrolling?
Yeah.
That's me. Which way you
Okay,
want me to go, 23 or 25?
23.
23.
So CPA will appear first. The CPA article is going to appear first.
Okay.
Okay.
Right there, I think is
That's
the,
that's it right there. Yep.
So that's not that far away.
No, but to Peg's point, to Scott's point, what we could do under this article, and I don't know if we would need permission from the Community Preservation Act Committee. Yeah, piece it all together in this first article, so it doesn't have to be re-explained later.
Well, or that we have control over 25 and 26, which are unrelated to either one of those. Put those after 27 and 28. And then in the CPA, reverse historic's 100,000 and the conservation, so that CPA is first historic, then they go to the Sudbury Valley property, then we go to the what's currently 27 and 28 for the rest of that property.
Oh, I see,
And
I
then go
see.
back to 25 and 26. So that the three motions, I think we can keep the CPA stuff together and still do the
Yep.
three
I see what you're saying.
motions related to that property all back to back.
Do
So
you
we
get
sort of
that,
can have
Peg
one
and Chris?
longer discussion that covers it all, and then probably three quick votes.
We're talking about bundling like articles
Mm.
together.
Yes.
Yes,
So 28 and 27 would come right after 24.
so I would switch 23 and 24.
Historical CPA would go before conservation CPA, and immediately after that, there'd be the other two conservation
Yep.
articles,
Right.
followed by all the others.
Yep. Okay.
Did Mary get that all in the notes?
I think we need a motion for that. A detailed motion.
So I would move that we reverse the CPA article, so historic comes first, swapping 23 and 24. And then I would also move that we push what is currently Articles 25 and 26 to be after what are current Articles 27 and 28.
Yeah.
Thus putting the three articles related to the Linden Street land together in the meeting.
Is that it,
Chris?
Scott?
I think that's it.
Okay. All right, I will second that.
Would you please repeat that? No.
I probably could have.
Scratch out the numbers. Scratch them out. No, that makes sense for flow. Stone Eye.
Hawkins, aye.
Key-fi.
All right. Yay. Anything, all right, so then we're good on that.
Did you already make a motion and vote on the other three article
Yes.
changes? Okay, good.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah, we're good on those three.
Yep.
Can I
All
just
right.
check on that? That was remove the earthworks combined bylaw, remove funding for the conscom land purchase?
No,
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 Well, Margaret, you could say.
open space mitigation.
Oh, okay.
It was formerly Article 7. It was open space mitigation.
And the third one?
Add stabilization.
Fund general stabilization.
Okay, thank you.
6 comes out, 29 comes out, and then the earthwork one also comes out.
I'm feeling the meeting getting shorter as we sit here.
Yep, all right.
So-
So next up for fun is to review and finalize the FY23 line item budgets. Specifically around the school, I saw that there were some emails going back and forth between Bob and Superintendent Zenge and finance and things like that. So that's where we are. Sure.
There we go.
I don't know if this was brought up at the last select board meeting, but we've received word that Bob Conry is going to be leaving his post to take another position. He's going to be leaving at the end of June and starting a new position on July 1st. And I mentioned at the finance committee meeting on Wednesday night that I have very much enjoyed working with Bob. I think that he's brought more transparency to the school budget, and he's really genuinely tried to work with the town to meet the students' needs and balance that with the town's financial needs.
I wish him best of luck.
With that being said, he actually, I had sent back another email to ask him if he had had a chance to relook at the budget. They did, and they came up with a couple of ideas, and they did wind up decreasing the budgeted request for Berlin Memorial assessment to the $3,598,326. And they kept the Tohoto assessment level with what they had originally asked for.
This is, and Chris, when you and I were both on FinCom, we had this discussion as well, what I'm about to say, but that when the school board needs to cut, they always cut from Berlin Memorial because it only cuts dollar for dollar, where if they cut from Tohoto, it's, $2 on Boylston side for Metropolitan and Berlin side. So it's easier than cut Berlin Memorial. And so Berlin Memorial gets the short shift every year, which is odd to say that it feels like Berlin Memorial is getting the short shift when they're getting a 4.5% increase, but it's one of those things that Chris helped, I think, train me about when we were on FinCom.
Yeah. So do we need to re-vote these, or did we not vote these?
Have not voted on them. I do ask, though, if you could re-vote, and I apologize for this, re-vote on the capital for Berlin Memorial. I had Bob clarify, because it was in two different spots, different amounts, but he did clarify that it's actually 68,000 for the capital, which I have increased here. Finance did agree on it and approved it. And the difference of the $2,000 would be added to the free cash amount as far as the revenue offset.
So we need to revote that line item because now it says 66, right?
Now it's
68.
68.
It's actually 68. You voted
Yeah.
on 66 last time. So it would be
Exactly.
those 3 lines.
All right. You want to make the motion, Scott, or you want me to?
You can make the motion. I don't know how I feel about it yet.
Well, I would make the motion as the town administrator has recommended, with the 4.5% for Berlin, 5.4 for Tohoto, and the Berlin Memorial Capital Assessment at 68,000.
I will second.
All right, I appreciate everyone's work on this. I know it hasn't been easy, and I know that there's still some differentiating opinions on it, but we will continue to plug away at it. Stone eye.
I think grudgingly I vote aye.
And I will vote aye.
Okay. June, was that it? Just those 3 lines? I think so. All
It as far as the line item budgets go.
righty. All right. Let's see, where are we? So the next step in the ARPA fund review process, Margaret, I think that your email was really kind of clear that if you want ARPA funding, you got to do the work. And here's all the information for, what needs to go before CPA.
Right, and so one of the things I worry about is that, of course, the list of ARPA ideas came from a variety of citizens, not necessarily the department heads are going to be in charge of getting those quotes and extra work. And so I want to make sure that TA 1 or 2, is it possible to assign those? I wish there was an easier way of saying those that look like they have some more value, because there are 90 things on the list. There's a couple of duds, I think, on the list, but I think at least all the ones that require some more quotes and bids could be assigned to a staff person to at least do the first cursory stuff. And again, I think one of the things that we could start doing as select board is work the other end of the spectrum. We talked about our priorities, but I don't know if there's ones that we're willing to say, I think this should be removed from the list. And I think we need to, as select board, I think we need to decide to remove from the list, because I think there are things that other people have suggested that I don't want necessarily removed just because the person who suggested them said, I don't think it says value anymore. And so I want to make sure that we planfully sort of remove from the list. I think it's easy because I think some of them are not legally usable. I think some of them don't meet our criteria, which is that we've already laid out. And so I'm hoping that we can find some to just pull off the list.
So Scott, would you recommend that we do that each of us come back with 4 or 5 off that list? I mean, I know I plucked a bunch off of mine over the weekend, that there are some that I could probably swing towards grants, for ADA items. There are a couple other ones that I took off, cemetery for the headstones. That should be totally in their purview to fix those headstones and put up grants. They're out there. I found them if I can find them. Most people can find them. So I know I whacked off probably 10 of mine and suggested that the sidewalks, instead of, Carterville, center of town, Berlin Memorial, that it just becomes 1 instead of 3 for
Right.
that.
Because I think the other thing we can do is, and what I might take on is there's a whole bunch related to the Bullard House and stuff, and just from working working with Historic Commission, just figure out where the duplicates are and what it even looks like, even if they all stay. But obviously, if there's some money even coming at town meeting, there's no reason to keep it on the ARPA list if town meeting's about to potentially vote to approve it. And so I think that if the list gets shorter, then it's also then easier for Margaret to assign some of those remaining ones to staff people to potentially research.
So
You bring in a
would you-
good, I'm sorry. Yeah,
No, no.
Scott, you both bring up good points, because we're talking here about alternative funding sources. There are alternative funding sources available for some of these things, whether it's grants, whether it's CPA. So, yeah, I think you make good points, but yes, we can assign staff to, tree removal, for example. The highway superintendent and, we can do that. And
Yeah,
Right,
but if
although
the
tree removal is also one that we've not found enough money over the years to do, and it's
Mhm.
becoming a worse problem. It could be a
Mhm.
sort of, because our ongoing budget can keep up, that we use this to take care of the backlog. I think I said at the last meeting that one of the things that I think surprised me looking at the list is the amount of sort of backlogged maintenance, where some money gets us from, always being a year behind to being up to date. And then our regular budget that's keeping us sort of even can now keep us even as an up to date, as opposed to always a year or two behind. And that wasn't even contemplated by me before the list.
I mean, I think with the trees, and Margaret, I don't know if we can even do this, but we have an arborist. Maddie from Concom is an arborist person. So I don't know if there's any way that
Mhm.
you could pay for her services to go around and spend some time and, not just this random, oh, there's 600 trees that need to come down, but truly have someone who knows a tree to say, got to come down now. No, it's good. Oh, dear God. No, that's fine. And I think that would help to narrow that focus. I don't know where 600 came from. It was just a random number based on, I don't know what for criteria. But if we have someone who is knowledgeable.
I think a good first step would be to connect her with Fred
Okay.
and have the two of them talk, because Fred would know the locations
Yeah.
of some of the trees that he questions, and she would be able to bring that expertise and go look at the trees.
And then for a select board discussion, there's a couple of suggestions that fall into out of the box thinking that I'd like to potentially have us just, what do we feel about them? There's the ones about pay for staff that has managed to stick with us during COVID. There's the one for our own internet service provider and research that sort of piece. There's one for having our own sort of raft fund, which helps people with mortgage and other stuff. And those that, because they're sort of odd, there's not really a person in town to sort of add more details and bones to them. But I don't want to, again, if we think that they're not appropriate, we could cut them. If we think they're appropriate, figure out what a next step might be.
Mhm.
So does everyone want to take a stab at next week to come back with 5? Maybe we'll all pick the same ones. I don't know, but based on using the CPC criteria that Margaret had sent through, if we were to apply that to those forms, do some of them even apply? No. Yeah.
And
Do
then,
we want to take a vote on the ones that you said you wanted to take off the list, Peg? Is everybody in agreement that those need to come off?
Well, those are the ones that I put on. So a couple of them were repetitive. So I was trying to cut down that. ADA ones, there's grants out there. So,
I mean, I had no problem. I
Yeah.
had no problem.
I was just trying to help out to say, for now, right now, I'm okay with taking them off because I know that there are far more critical items that will serve the entire town. Not to say that mine weren't important, they were, but I'm willing to step up and say, take mine off and let's truly work on blah, 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 because right now we have a very small amount of money to work with. If we get the full boat, then maybe I'll push to have them come back. But for right now, I'm good with having them as a strike through on the list, to be potentially revisited at another time.
Okay.
I'm fine with them coming off,
All right.
because I
Okay.
can always decide that I want to sponsor one of them to come back if one of them really meant a lot
Right.
to me.
Yep. Okay.
And then could
Regardless,
we,
it would be nice
Right.
to have them all come through the capital planning process for future
And-
consideration.
right, and then Margaret, when the list was started, you pointed out that some of this money that we're receiving is to make up for lost revenue, but I don't think we can use this money for lost revenue. So the ones that say, refill this fund that lost revenue, that fund that lost revenue, we can't even do. And so all those make up for lost revenue lines, I think we can just drop from the list as well.
That's right. That's right. You could use it to fund other parts of the operating budget. You could
Yeah.
fund it for capital
Right.
purchases and things like that. You just cannot fund stabilization funds, for example, with it, or pay
Right.
debt service.
Right, or put it in the 1870 revolving fund,
Right.
We could you know, buy a tank of oil for 1870, or we could do other things, but to just like put it in those funds. And so I was thinking those could just be dropped really quickly. There's no research that need to be done on them anyway. And I think that gets us, we start getting to a list that's sort of easier to manage, where more priority projects could bubble up, and even ones we keep on the list could bubble down, just like, look, that was, as Peg just said, might be better if we get the next round of money worth doing, but in the first round, it's probably not the best use.
Yeah,
All
so
right.
we're not really actually going to say we're cutting these.
No,
We're gonna put
just,
them at the bottom of the list.
right. Yep, just move them down or put a strike through and just leave the list intact. But just so that we can see, you know, we're not going to consider this group. We'll look at other things.
What, is there an all-encompassing list in, I don't think it was in, was it?
It was
in-
in this week's drive, but it was a couple of last week. I think it's still there, because every time they come up with a new list, I make my own copy, and so I can sort and add comments and,
Yeah, there you go.
and do things that are not then necessarily because
Well,
anything I make changes is not approved by the select board. So I don't want to be.
And I do the same on mine. I make comments.
Either that, or could somebody just send out another list?
I
Again.
haven't touched that list in weeks, so I'm not
Yep.
sure, Scott, or Peg, if you've the most recently touched list. I haven't.
Yep, it's a couple weeks old. Yep.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and it just had a few strike throughs on it.
what Google Drive or what week is it in?
I just go into Drive and I type ARPA, and
Mary,
there's,
can you just
there's
send
only
out
one
the-
document.
Just
Mary,
again,
could you
yeah.
also just email out the link to the board?
But like I'm
Go.
saying, Scott
Yep.
and Peg have been updating that list.
No,
Well,
I
we've been
haven't
for
done-
for our own personal use
Oh,
and our
you're
own
right.
sort of organizing. We've
I will,
not done anything
send
to
out the
town.
most recent one that
Yeah.
was in a board folder.
No, the long one.
I think it's called ARPA with select board top 4 picks each, TA edits 3/7/22.
Yep, will do.
yeah. No, I've made my own copy and have done work on the side of it, but haven't touched the master list. So,
Okay, I appreciate it.
okay. All right. So we will revisit next week. Maybe we can all come back with at least 5 that,
Yep.
again, doesn't meet criteria. We can whittle it down. All right. So T1, T2, are there any recommendations for new hires? We are at new business, getting close to the end of our meeting.
Not this week.
All righty.
Not this week, anyway.
This week is always next. And there is a request from our most awesome town clerk, Eloise, regarding the delay on the late dog fees for licenses due to just some timing. She had sent forth an
Right.
email.
A lot of people pay at the rabies clinic. The rabies clinic is delayed.
Yep.
We want to make sure that people who come to the rabies clinic don't get penalized, unfortunately.
Correct.
I think she made a great recommendation. I think it's great that she thought about it more than the day where she realized she has to pay for things. I have no problem making a motion that we delay the imposition of late dog license fees till after the rabies clinic.
I'll second that.
All right, me too. Stone Eye?
Hawkins, aye.
Keep by.
All right, so last item on the list is board questions, comments, liaison updates.
I have 2. The Traffic Safety Advisory Committee was a very short meeting, so this is pretty short. Fred is ordering signs and signposts for the Jake Breaks signs. They discussed complete streets and funding priorities for design engineering. And the target is fall of 2023 for the bridge on South Street to be replaced.
Mhm.
And Mary Porter would like to talk again about stop signs at Carter and Highland at the next meeting. And the next meeting is April 12th at 5:30.
Wasn't there another sign request that had come in, I think, from Dennis?
Yes,
All
they're gonna take that one up too.
right.
Yeah,
And
at the
so-
next meeting.
On the Jake break, just asking, it's not approved by town yet, so why would we order signs and poles?
I think they're only, I don't know if it's gonna be signs or if they're putting up a sign board to say, to make it like an advisory thing. Oh, you know what? Chief Shartner's
He's-
here. He's the chair. He could,
Oh,
if he can
that's what he
be.
gets for hanging around.
Yeah, I think it was just, we got the price on it. we're not gonna move. I don't think we're gonna have the money till July 1st.
Okay.
I don't think it's, and if it does pass in May and there is money, then we
Oh,
will,
that's what was, yeah, that's what.
yeah. But I think we just got all our ducks lined up, ready to go.
Okay. All right.
All right, then I had NVRDD, Neshoba Valley. The executive director gave her report. In her report, there was that we are losing one dispatcher to Berlin, which I believe is the one that's being hired as a police officer.
Oh, full-time?
I think so. With the possibility of losing one more. The hiring for the admin coordinator. I believe she starts April 14th. And they're starting to take phase 1 wireless 911 calls for the development grant in order to get it. The FY22 budget, the lines for overtime are at 107%. HVAC is a little high. The chair requested that the executive director check the lease for responsibility of who the party is responsible. And HR is a little high in the budget because MRI was used to hire the executive director. But I think all of these things will probably, there'll be things that are overages that they'll be able to balance it all out. The admin board spent time looking at the IMA. We looked at the first 8 pages of the agreement, and we'll send to council when the edits are complete. Townsend's last day is hopefully June 30th. Maynard has no interest in joining NVRDD. Boxborough may be a possibility. And we set up a schedule for April, May, and June meetings. Oh, executive session, we approved the executive session minutes.
Can't tell you what we talked about, or I'll have to kill you. There you go. Mhm.
Well, now they're open, so you can go right and look for them. So that was it. That's all I have.
Mr. Hawkins?
I don't really have updates, but I think that we should, on our next several meeting agendas, have an item to talk about the process of hiring for Margaret's replacement. As much as I would love her to stay and don't want to think about her leaving, 3 months are going to go by really, really fast. And so the sooner we, and Margaret, if we could look at where funding comes, because I'm assuming we're going to get outside supports to do this like we did to hiring you in the first place. I don't know where we have money in the budget for it.
Yeah, if the town chooses to use an outside consultant to do the search, that's entirely up to the board, but that money could potentially be taken from the consultant line. I would also say, I'll see if I can find it, bring up everything that was used for the town profile and things like that in that initial search, because why recreate what it already exists? So, okay.
So just making sure it's an agenda item for the next several agendas so that we,
Yeah,
move it
I
forward.
agree.
Yeah, and before I burst into
We'll convince
tears.
Margaret to apply for the job.
Yeah. No, you know what? We'll give her a respite of 3 years, and then when I retire and drive the COA van, we're gonna all get in
Okay.
it and head west on Route 2, and she's
That I
gonna look
think I
out the
could
door and
handle.
hear toot toot and
That I
see.
can
Thelma and Louise, we're trying to find the stolen COA van. We're taking that off of-
You see, yeah, Eric will just put a trace on my phone. That's so. All right.
I'm done with that.
Yeah,
with that.
and that was actually, Margaret, a question that I was going to have for you. Does your job description need to go through personnel to approve, or when can we giddy up and get that out?
So yeah, the job description was Sandy did the job description. We just need to have it reviewed and approved. So we'll send it off to personnel. I'll dig that up and send it off to personnel.
Okay.
The act really does provide a more
Everything.
detailed outline of the duties. So, well,
Okay.
general
All right.
duties.
Scott, did you have anything else before I rudely
Nope.
cut you off?
Nope. Go ahead.
All right. All right, so for mine, Concom, you know what's up. Rec, you know what's up. Earthworks, you know what's up. Margaret Energy, you had mentioned Beth's name. Do we start to target a date on an agenda to have her come and talk to us, or do we
I
just
don't
let it ride
have,
for a
no, I
date?
don't have that yet, but she does understand that, we'd like her to come to the
Yep.
select board meeting and talk about that with them. So as soon as she gets, we're in
Everything.
contact now. So as soon as she gets the information from the company that she's working with, we'll have her come and really outline what she found.
All right, then my updates are done. Look at that, the book is closed. All right, with that, I see no other need for a executive session, so I'll take a motion to adjourn.
But it's not 9:30 yet. No, I move we adjourn.
Oh,
I
you didn't
second
change your
that
clock
motion.
far enough ahead yet. All right, so motion in a second. Stone eye.
Hawkins, aye.
Keith, aye.
All right. Have a good
Yeah,
night,
good night,
everyone. We'll see you in a
everybody.
Hey,
week.
everyone.